She had 20 years. She turned to her mother.
When I was really little, when I was like 7 or 8, it was started out with stuff like, you know, Deep Purple, and then moved into Kiss and Queen and Ted Nugent and all these bands, hard rock bands when I was a kid. And then when I was about 13, I discovered punk rock and hardcore and stuff, and got into the Plasmatics and Black Flag and, of course, Sex Pistols, Ramones, and all these bands. And that was the scene where I, you know, came of age and grew up in, the bands that opened my mind in so many ways. But I've always been open-minded with music. I mean, you know, not long after falling into the punk scene, you know, somebody turned me on to Black Sabbath and Motorhead and Pink Floyd and all these other bands that were happening at the time, you know, Joy Division and Bauhaus.
Still waters in me, drown the figures in the fire. A lesser risen God behind the walls of time.
You know, I grew up listening to a lot of it through my dad and everything. My dad was really into country music, and so that's what I grew up hearing a lot of when I was a kid. And you know, I rejected it initially, as most kids do with their parents' music. You don't necessarily like it. But as I got older, I came across it again and began to appreciate the craft of songwriting and the storytelling, again, the openness, the honesty. And I began to be really intrigued by whether I could do that, you know, whether I could craft a song like that. Because I felt I knew what I could do with Neurosis. I know, I mean, that's, like I said again, that's a comfortable place for me. I know what I do there. It's a place that I created, but this is stepping into maybe another world, you know, and trying to work within it. And then also, at the same time, create my own thing within it, you know.
I started my first punk rock band when I was 15 years old. It was called Christ on Parade, and we were kind of a political hardcore band from California in 1985. And we, by the time I was 16, I had an album and a US tour. And that band, we came to Europe in 1988. I was 19 then. So that's kind of like part of my transition from youth to becoming an adult. That band and Neurosis were like brother bands. And when my band dissolved and Neurosis needed somebody to join on the keyboards, they asked me. And so we have a very, very long history, Scott and I, of, you know, being young punk rockers together.